Hi, Scott Machine Gun Dad. Welcome back to my channel. This is another story video. It's actually my 9/11 experience. It's going to have to be in two parts because it's a longer story. It is not tragic. I did not suffer any tragically like a lot of people did on that day. Part of it is humorous, and part of it shows you just how out of touch with reality major police departments can be. So let's go back to 9/11 that day. I was scheduled to work 3 to 11. I was a corporal in Mercer. It's early morning. The attacks have not happened yet. Being the gun guy that I am, I'm on the phone with Inner Ordnance, which is, I believe, Royal Tiger now, ordering magazines. They had G3 magazines on special for like $1. So while I'm talking to this nice lady with a nice southern accent, she says, "Did you hear about the planes that hit the World Trade Center?" And having been, read a little history myself, I was aware that other planes had hit buildings in New York City, but usually they're small Piper Cub type buildings. So in my brain, I'm thinking Piper Cub. "Oh, it's bad? Anybody hurt?" She says, "Oh, it's bad. I think a lot of people are hurt." She says, "It's all over the news. You should turn the news on." So back then we had a Toshiba rear projection TV. For people that aren't as old as me, you turned them on, the sound came on, but the bulbs took a while. They were three giant color lenses in the back, and it took a while, 15 to 30 seconds to heat up, and then the TV kind of faded in from the back. So I'm on the phone, hit the button, and I can hear this guy saying, "Well, right here you can see where the plane hit the tower," but I can't see anything. And as it's coming up, he's leaning forward and he's going like this. So obviously he's in front of a green screen or something. "Right here you can see the plane," and he turns and he says, I don't remember what he says, but right behind him I can see the second plane come in and bank right into the tower. Brain goes off. Fuck, that was intentional. They were turning to hit the tower. They weren't turning to miss the tower. So on the phone, and I said, I need to get off the phone. But being the gun guy that I am, I made sure she had all she had so I could still get my HK magazines for $1. Hang up the phone. Call the barracks. My friend Pat's working. "Pat, what the fuck is going on?" He's like, "We don't know. We think there's one down near Somerset. 2 hit the World Trade Centers. 1 may have hit the Pentagon. I don't even think it had made the news yet. And they're saying there might be one unaccounted for, so 5. It turned out there were only 4, but we thought there might have been 5. "Okay, what do you want me to do?" "Pack 3 or 4 days worth of shit. You're probably going to get sent somewhere. I'll let you know and give you the word." Cool. Hang up the phone, call my wife, who was a beautician at the time. "Hey, get the kid, come home. Get both kids, my stepson and my son, and come home." And she's like, "I've got women waiting to get their hair cut." And I'm like, "You think I give a fuck about that? Get home where I know you're safe." Because nobody knew what was going on. Hang up with her. I'm watching the news like everybody else. Phone rings. Pat says, "Hey, be in here and be ready to go at 11 o'clock. "Okay, where are we going? Where are we going?" "Nobody knows, but come in at 11 o'clock. Be ready to go." Okay. Fly into the barracks, put the uniform on, go out front. "What's going on?" "Well, grab a couple troopers and walk down to the courthouse with your hat on, walk around the outside. They're going to let out early and make people feel safe." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" I said, "What is that about?" And they're like, "Well, people need to feel safe." I said, "We have one of the largest above ground pumping stations for the Northeast gas pipeline in the United States. Supplies gas to basically New York and all the northeastern states. We're not going to guard that. What about the Emlenton Bridge on 80? That's in our zone. And if they take the bridge out, no traffic or no food moves to New York. No, we're not going to do that. You got to go walking around and make those people safe." So I grabbed, I think, 2 guys. We go down, we walk around with our hats on. People come down, "Oh, thanks so much." And I'm thinking, holy fuck, I hope we're not this stupid if this is a war. Because 3 guys walking around in uniform are not going to stop if they wanted to crash a plane, they were crashing a plane. So, get back to the barracks. And right then, I learned about the barracks defense plan. We put up an orange cone at the lower entrance to stop terrorist attacks, apparently, because it's not like we had 100 vehicles in the impound lot that we couldn't have pulled across the driveway. So I'm going in there. I go in, and like everyone else on that day, who's my age or maybe in their 40s, who remember, nobody knew what was going on. We were all glued to our TV. And the ironic thing is that the phone calls coming in stopped. Nobody was traveling, so there weren't any accidents. There was no domestics, nobody was fighting, right? So it just stopped. So the shift's changing. So my friend Pat's getting ready to go home. It's 3 o'clock or so. Corporal Howard, pick up line 2. Okay. So I go pick up line 2. Now back then we had a phone bank in the corporal's office. The first 3 or 4 lines were the lines that came in from the public. The last 4 or 5 lines were lines you used if you wanted to call out, so you didn't tie up the lines coming in from the public. So I go in, the lights flashing. Corporal Howard, may I help you? Yeah, this is so-and-so and so-and-so, the FAA. We've been tracking 2 light aircraft on radar. So first of all, I bet you didn't know there were planes up after all the other planes were ordered to land, because it never made the news. I said, okay. And in my mind, I'm thinking, one of my guys is fucking with me. They're calling me from one of the back lines, calling the front line, and pretending, because what am I going to do, right? So I check, and all lines are dark. Okay, I'll play along. So, yeah, sir, well, how can I help you? Well, we tracked 2 planes that took off, 2 light aircraft that took off down near Wampum. They were on radar for a while. They went off over near Youngstown. They're back up on radar, and then they went off again, and now they're back up on radar. Looks like they're heading towards Grove City Airport, which is a tiny little airport. What am I going to do? Okay, yeah, that's nice. What do you expect me to do? And he's like, well, maybe could you send some guys down there and see what's going on? And I'm thinking, this is a pretty ironic, pretty elaborate joke. He says, hold on a second, I got a patch coming through. And back then we had the analog phone, so there was no digital patching. You actually heard a clunk. So I hear this clunk, and this guy comes on and says, this is Colonel so-and-so, North American Air Defense Command. We've tracked 2 unidentified aircraft on radar. We scrambled 2 F-16s out of the Indiana National Guard, Air Guard, en route to your location to deal with those aircraft. So Scott went from, oh, this is kind of funny, to, fuck, what am I going to do? The other guy comes back on the phone and says, I will get somebody down there. I'm going to give you back to the desk person. He'll take your contact information. Give it. I tell the desk person to pick the phone up. I run in the back, grab a couple guys, say, we're going to the airport. Go. Well, back then, we didn't have even AR-15s. We had shotguns. So I called my wife at home and I said, hey, get an M16 out of the gun locker and 2 magazines, load up, see if I can find 2 30-round magazines to load. I'm going to stop, pick them up. My house, barracks, my house, Grove City Airport. Bat out of hell to my house. She hands me, it was an M16A2 and 2 mags, and I take off towards the airport. Now, red lights and siren, the whole 9 yards, going as fast as you can. I get there and there's 2 or 3 state cars in front of me, at least 2. And I can hear them as I'm coming down the office of one of the back roads by the Grove City outlet malls. Yeah, we have 2 in tow. And I immediately told the station, call that number, tell them we have 2 in tow, we will advise. So I get in, and they got these 2 white guys that are in their 40s. Kind of a little tipsy, kind of a little roughed up. I go pulling in, and the one guy's already in a car. The other guy doesn't want to get in the car. He's arguing, why are you arresting us? Well, we didn't do anything wrong, but, you know, the typical, he didn't know. And as they're trying to push him in, he's like halfway in the car. And he says, the one trooper says to him, didn't you notice that there weren't any aircraft in the sky at all? And the guy's like halfway in the state car in the back seat, and he kind of leans on, he looks around in the blue sky, and there's not a contrail anywhere. Right? And he's about to say something, and an F-16 goes over the airport at about 800, 700, 800 miles an hour, just one, rocked all 3 aircraft, and it like this. And I looked up and it flew over 79, and then it did one of these. And the guy says, well, what about that? And the trooper says, he was here for you. And then all of a sudden the color went out of the guy's face. He realized he fucked up. They were going to shoot him down. Put him in the car, drive him to the barracks. Get him up to the barracks. What am I arresting him for? I don't have any authority for flying a light aircraft. So they're actually pretty nice guys. They've just been drinking. Here's their story. They have a light aircraft and a homemade aircraft, ultralight and homemade aircraft. One of them was having engine problems. So they were in at their private airstrip, which is basically a grass field down near Wampum, working on it all day. Didn't have a radio or TV because they were out working on the plane. They were having a few beers, and their aircraft don't have aircraft radios or transponders because of the type of aircraft they are. And what they were doing was taking off and doing touch and goes at their buddies' houses who had grass strips that were into the same type of aircraft. So they really weren't doing anything wrong. It was just kind of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So 3 black Suburbans show up. And you want to talk about the stereotypical crew cut, aviator sunglasses, jeans and plaid shirt fed. Like 6 of them get out of these Suburbans. Well, I didn't see that part. The PCO told me. They call me up front because they got a trooper watching them in the PCO because they're just like handcuffed to the bench in the front. And I go up, one of the cuffs are mine, and he says, take the cuffs off. I take the cuffs, they hook him up. And I said, can I get your name? He says, I already gave it to the PCO. I said, okay, but I didn't. He says, he wouldn't give me his name. So the PCO has his name. And honest to God, this sounds so weird, but it was like Agent Joe Smith. I mean, it was so generic. It was like, what do you make? You just print this up on a printer? They load these 2 guys in the Suburbans, and off they go. Other stuff happened, which will be in a second video, but I never heard from the department about those 2 guys. I never heard from the feds about those 2 guys. 3 or 4 days later, when no airplanes were flying, their aircraft were gone from the Grove City Airport. So there's a story you'll never hear about 9/11, that there were 2 planes up after all the planes were grounded, and that's how they dealt with it. That's my kind of funny 9/11 story. Oh, there is one caveat to this story. A couple years later, I get transferred to Newcastle, and I'm, Stady's bullshit, and I'm sitting around telling this story, and the one guy starts laughing. He says, I was on a domestic up in Plain Grove Township, which is, say 6 miles from where the airport is. And these people didn't know that the attacks had happened. And typical policy then was you'd separate the parties. So it was like the wife stayed inside with one trooper, and the other trooper takes the semi-intoxicated husband outside. And the trooper's line is basically, don't you know about the attacks? Haven't you watched TV? Do you really think you need to be doing today? And the guy's going like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. The trooper's like, maybe you should turn the TV on. And that F-16 that flew over us went over them. Apparently a lot faster than it was when it was going over us. Because the guy said, I see what you're talking about. And he just went back inside, and the domestic was over. So there is a little humor to that story. There's another part to this my 9/11 experience that'll be in a second video. Thanks for coming to the channel. I don't think I taught anybody anything, but maybe it gave you something to think about. Have a good one.